Ferris moved carefully through the dark hallway of the old space station. His boots made small sounds against the metal floor, but even those echoes made him tense. The air smelled old, like rust and dust had mixed for years without change. He held a small hand light, moving it slowly to check every corner. This station had been abandoned since the last Great War. No ships docked here anymore. No voices, no traffic, no trade, just silence and maybe, if he was lucky, something valuable left behind. Ferris was not a soldier, not a fighter. He was an engineer, and he survived by finding broken machines, fixing them, and selling them to whoever needed them. He stopped in front of a locked door. Its panel was dead, but the frame had no damage. If the power was still running inside, maybe something useful was hidden there. He pulled his small tool bag from his shoulder and started to work. A few sparks jumped when he connected his battery pack. The door slowly slid open with a deep metallic groan. The light from his hand lamp fell into the room. It was large, wide, and full of shadows. In the center stood something that made Ferris freeze, a small silver ship, shaped like a bird with its wings folded. It did not look like human design. The curves were too smooth, the color too pure. Ferris stepped closer, his curiosity growing. He had seen alien ships before, but only from far away in markets or in the air above cities. This was the first time he had been close enough to touch one. His fingers brushed over the cool surface, and it almost felt alive under his hand. Then, the ship's side opened. Ferris jumped back, nearly dropping his light. A figure stepped out. She was tall, with skin the color of soft, rich teal blue. Her eyes were deep silver, and her hair flowed like strands of black silk. She had a soft, natural beauty, but her posture carried the weight of authority, even in the dim light. Ferris could tell she was not just anyone. They stared at each other in silence for a few heartbeats. "Who are you?" Her voice was calm, but there was strength in it. Ferris cleared his throat. "My name is Ferris. I'm just an engineer. I didn't know anyone was here." "You entered without permission," she said. "Yes," Ferris admitted, "but I'm not here to hurt anyone. I only search for broken things I can fix. I live by trading repairs for food and fuel." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You are human." "Yes," he replied. "And you are not." She gave the smallest nod. "I am Lyrae, queen of the Erangel people, or I was." The way she said those last words made Ferris realize something. She was in hiding. Her clothes were not ceremonial or rich. They were travel-worn, and a small burn mark cut across her left sleeve. "What is a queen doing here?" "Alone?" Ferris asked before he could stop himself. Lyrae's gaze went distant for a moment. "My fleet was destroyed. My world is in danger. The enemy hunts me. This ship is my last way home. But it is damaged. I cannot leave." Ferris looked at the silver craft. "What's wrong with it?" "The main drive is unstable," she said. "I tried to repair it, but my knowledge is for leading, not fixing engines." Ferris's heart beat faster. He was no hero, but a challenge. Like this, repairing an alien royal ship was beyond anything he had imagined. "I can try," he said. Lyrae studied him as if measuring his worth. "Why would you help me?" "Because machines are made to work, and broken things should be fixed," Ferris answered simply. "And because I think you need help." A small smile touched her lips, quick and gone. "Very well, but if you betray me, there will be no second chance." Ferris nodded. She led him inside her ship. The interior was even more breathtaking than the outside. Soft lights glowed along smooth walls, and every surface felt crafted with care. He could hear a low hum from deeper within, the failing heart of the ship. The engine room was compact but filled with strange shapes and glowing crystal conduits. One panel flickered weakly, showing alien symbols he could not read. "This is the core problem," Lyrae said, pointing to a section where a crystal cylinder was cracked without a stable flow. "The drive will tear itself apart." Ferris crouched, inspecting the connections. He did not know the alien words, but machines spoke a language of their own. The shape of parts, the heat on a surface, the hum in the metal. "I can make a bypass," he said slowly. "It won't be perfect, but it should let you travel far enough to find a proper repair station. You can do this. I can try, but I'll need parts from the station. Lyrae tilted her head. The station is dangerous, scavengers, pirates, and perhaps worse. I've been walking these halls for years, Ferris replied. I know where to look. For the next hour. He moved through the broken station again, this time with Lyrae following close behind. She moved silently, her steps lighter than his. Her silver eyes scanned every shadow, and Ferris felt safer knowing she was watching his back. They reached an old storage bay where Ferris had once found energy cells. He dug through piles of discarded scrap until he found a length of insulated cabling and a small stabilizer coil. This should work, he said, on the way back. They heard distant voices, sharp, unfriendly tones in a language Ferris did not know. Lyrae pulled him into the shadows behind a broken wall. Two figures passed, tall, armored. With glowing visors, they carried long weapons and moved with precision, Varn scouts. Lyrae whispered, if they see me, they will call more. Ferris's throat tightened, but the scouts kept moving, unaware of them. Back inside the ship. Ferris worked quickly. Lyrae watched silently as he cut and joined cables, fixed the coil in place, and sealed the bypass with resin. When he stepped back, sweat on his forehead, the engine's hum grew steadier. It should hold, he said. Lyrae touched the control panel, and the alien symbols glowed bright and steady. You have done more than I expected, she said softly. Perhaps more than you realize. Ferris smiled faintly. Engines are engines. They just want to run. She looked at him for a long moment, as if deciding something important. Then stay here tonight. The station is not safe for you now. In the morning, perhaps we will speak of what comes next. Ferris hesitated, but there was something in her voice, not an order, but a quiet trust. He nodded. Outside, the silent station drifted through empty space, but inside the silver ship, a strange partnership had just begun. The next morning, Ferris woke to a soft sound, the hum of the alien ship's systems running smoothly. For a moment, he forgot where he was. The smooth walls, the gentle light, the strange scent of the air. None of it belonged to the human stations he knew. He stood and found Lyrae already awake. She sat near the control panel, her silver eyes scanning streams of alien symbols. Without turning, she said, You sleep like someone who has not been hunted. Ferris smiled faintly. And you watch like someone who has. Lyrae's expression stayed calm, but there was a shadow in her gaze. My people are 3 weeks away from falling to the Varn, she said. They destroyed my fleet. My world will not last without help. I must return, but my ship is still too weak for the journey. Ferris glanced toward the engine room. It's running now, isn't it? It can travel, she admitted, but not far enough to reach home. We need certain parts, special ones, and they are not here. Where are they? Ferris asked. Lyrae touched a control. A star map appeared in the air, glowing faint blue. She pointed to 3 marked locations: an old mining outpost, a trade post abandoned after a plague, and a station on the edge of neutral space. If we can reach these, we can take what we need. Ferris studied the map. That's far. Her voice was calm. I will not reach my people without them, and without me, they will be taken. Ferris didn't need more explanation. He wasn't a soldier, but he understood what it meant to have no one left to defend you. All right, he said. I'll help you get the parts. Lyrae's silver gaze met his. You risk much for a people you do not know. Ferris shrugged lightly. Machines don't care who they belong to, and maybe I don't either. They left the ruined station within the hour. Lyrae's ship rose from the docking bay like a bird unfolding its wings. The old station faded into the darkness behind them, and the stars stretched ahead for Ferris. The journey was unlike anything he had known. The ship glided silently, its controls responding to the smallest movement of Lyrae's hands. The stars shifted as they entered faster than light travel, turning into long white lines. At the first stop, the mining outpost, the silence was unsettling. The station floated near a small asteroid field, its docking arms twisted from years without repair. Lyrae kept the engines warm as Ferris stepped out to search. Inside, The air was stale and thin. Rows of broken mining drones lay scattered across the floor. He found a storage room and began looking for the alloy stabilizers Lyrae had described. Halfway through, he heard movement. He froze. From the shadows, two scavengers appeared. One tall and thin, the other short with heavy shoulders, their eyes fixed on the bag of parts in his hands. "That doesn't belong to you," the tall one said. Ferris kept his voice steady. "Doesn't belong to you either. I just need to fix a ship." The short one stepped closer. But before he could say anything, a calm voice echoed through the hall. "If you wish to live," Lyrae said from the doorway, "walk away." Both scavengers turned and froze. Lyrae stood tall, her silver eyes unblinking, her presence sharp as a blade. Without a word, the scavengers backed away into the shadows. When they were gone, Ferris exhaled. "You didn't have to scare them like that. They would have taken your parts and left you drifting," she replied. "Kindness is a language not everyone speaks." They continued to the second location, the abandoned trade post. The place was darker, its corridors filled with dust and strange marks on the walls. Ferris worked quickly, collecting the power converters they needed, while Lyrae kept watch. As they prepared to leave, a small alien patrol ship appeared on their scanners. Lyrae's hands moved swiftly on the controls, guiding them through a field of drifting cargo containers. The patrol scanned the area but didn't spot them. Once they were clear, Ferris let out a breath. "You fly like you've been running all your life," he said. Her lips curved slightly. "Perhaps I have." The third location was the most dangerous, a neutral space station still used by traders, mercenaries, and wanderers from many worlds. Here, they could not just take parts, they would have to trade for them. Ferris took the lead, speaking to a group of scrap merchants. His skills with machines made them interested, and he offered to repair a broken navigation unit in exchange for the final component they needed. While he worked, Lyrae watched from a distance. She noticed how he spoke plainly, how he never tried to impress or threaten, and yet people trusted him. It was a skill she rarely saw in leaders, but perhaps more valuable than force. When they returned to the ship with the part, Lyrae said quietly, "You are unlike the soldiers I have known. They think in straight lines, attack or defend. You think in paths no one expects." Ferris shrugged. "I just fix problems, sometimes," she said. "That is how wars are won." Later, as they drifted between the stars, Ferris asked, "What happens when we reach your home?" Lyrae's voice softened. "If we are in time, I will take command of what remains of my fleet. If we are too late, my people will be scattered, or worse. And you think I should stay out of it?" Her silver gaze rested on him for a long moment. "Yes, you are human. This is not your war. I would rather you live than die in a fight that is not yours." Ferris didn't answer, but in his mind, the idea of staying behind while others fought felt wrong. By the time they had all the parts installed, the ship's engine purred like new. The next jump would take them close to Lyrae's world. As the stars outside shifted, Ferris caught a flicker of worry in her expression. "You're thinking about the war," he said. "I am thinking," she replied quietly, "about what I might lose before it is over." Ferris didn't ask what she meant. He didn't need to. Ahead, the stars glimmered like cold fire, and the shadow of war waited just beyond them. The stars drifted slowly outside the silver ship's windows. Ferris sat in the co-pilot seat, quietly adjusting the readings on the small repair panel he had added himself. Lyrae stood at the front, watching the glowing star map as if it could answer the questions in her mind. They were only 2 jumps away from her homeworld now. The silence inside the ship felt heavier with every hour they traveled. Ferris tried to lighten the mood. "So, what's the first thing you'll do when you get back?" Lyrae didn't look at him. "I will call what remains of my council. We will prepare for the defense. There will be no time for anything else." He nodded. But then her tone softened. "And you? What will you do?" Ferris thought for a moment. "Probably fix something broken. That's what I do best." A small smile touched her lips. "Even in war?" "Especially in war," he replied. They stopped at a small neutral moon to refuel. It was a quiet place, one large market dome surrounded by smaller living quarters. Many traders and travelers passed through, buying and selling what they could before moving on. Ferris wandered through the market while Lyrae stayed near the ship. He had learned that her presence always drew attention. Too many people would recognize an Erindril queen, even without her royal clothes. The air inside the dome was warm and carried the smell of spice and oil. Merchants shouted prices, children ran between stalls, and strange machines hummed from open workshops. Ferris stopped at a stall selling engine parts. While talking to the merchant, he overheard two men speaking in low voices at the next stall. They spoke in a trade language he understood. The Varn fleet is building something. One of them said, "Not a normal weapon. Bigger." "How big?" The other asked. "Big enough to break a planet's shield in one shot. They say it's on the captured moon of Yather, hidden under the surface." Ferris's hands tightened on the metal part he was holding. He waited, pretending to be busy, until the men walked away. He returned to the ship quickly. Lyrae was checking the fuel lines. "There's something you need to know," Ferris said. Inside the ship, he told her what he had heard. Her silver eyes grew cold and serious. "If the Varn have such a weapon, my world will fall even faster than I feared. Then we should warn your people right away." Ferris said, "I will," she replied. "But this makes our time even shorter." Ferris hesitated. "Maybe we can do more than warn them." She turned to look at him. "You mean destroy it?" "Why not?" he asked. "If it's on a captured moon. Maybe it's not fully defended yet. If we get there before they finish it." "No," Lyrae interrupted firmly. "You are human. This is not your fight. I will not send you into the heart of the Varn's weapon. It would be suicide." Ferris leaned back in his seat. "And if no one tries, your people will have no chance." Her voice was calm but sharp. "You do not understand. I have seen war, Ferris. I have seen what it takes from those who enter it. Even if you live, you will not be the same." He met her gaze. "Maybe not. But I'd rather be different than watch you lose everything." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Lyrae turned away, her hands resting on the smooth controls. "You do not know what you are asking," she said quietly. The rest of the journey to their next stop was quiet. Outside, the stars passed like cold rivers of light. Inside, Ferris kept thinking about the weapon. He could see it in his mind, massive, hidden under rock, surrounded by guards and machinery. He didn't know exactly how, but he felt certain there would be a way to stop it. When they reached a small refit station to make final checks, the tension between them still hung in the air. Ferris helped Lyrae replace the coolant lines and adjust the ship's external plating. She worked without speaking much, but her eyes stayed on him longer than before, as if she was trying to read his thoughts. At one point, she finally said, "You remind me of someone I once knew. He was not a soldier either, but he refused to stand aside. He saved my life once and lost his own soon after." Ferris looked at her. "I'm sorry." She shook her head slightly. "Do not be sorry. Just do not repeat his fate." That night, if time and space could be called night, Ferris couldn't sleep. He walked quietly to the viewing deck at the top of the ship. The stars spread endlessly in every direction, cold and silent. He heard footsteps behind him. Lyrae joined him, standing with her hands folded behind her back. "This view," she said softly, "is the same from every world, yet no two people see it the same way." Ferris nodded. "What do you see?" She was quiet for a long moment. "I see what I must protect. My people live under those stars. I see every life I am sworn to guard." "And what do you see when you look at me?" Ferris asked, half joking, but curious. Her silver eyes met his. "I see someone who should not be in this war. Someone who might be taken from me before I can stop it." Ferris didn't answer right away. He looked out at the stars again. "Then maybe you should get used to the idea that I'm not very good at staying out of trouble." A faint smile touched her lips, but there was sadness in it. "I fear I already have," by the time they set course for her homeworld. The shadow of the coming battle hung over them both. Lyrae entered the commands for the jump, her fingers moving with precision. But her gaze was far away. Ferris sat beside her, thinking of the captured moon, the weapon, and the choice he would have to make. Somewhere ahead, the Varn were preparing to strike, and somewhere in his heart, Ferris knew that if the chance came, he would not stay behind, no matter what Lyrae said. The stars stretched into long white lines as the ship leapt forward, carrying them closer to the war that waited. The silver ship drifted out of faster-than-light travel with a quiet hum. Before them lay the distant glow of Lyrae's homeworld, a blue and green jewel in the blackness. But the view was not peaceful. Even from here, Ferris could see flashes. In the upper atmosphere, tiny bursts of light like distant storms. Lyrae's silver eyes narrowed. "They've already begun fighting," she said. Ferris leaned forward, gripping the edge of the console. "Then we can't waste time." She was about to speak when the ship's alert system gave a sharp tone. Red marks appeared on the screen. 3 fast-moving objects coming from the side. "Varn Patrol," Lyrae said quickly. "They've spotted us." Before Ferris could reply, the first shot hit. The silver ship shuddered, the shields glowing faintly as they absorbed the impact. Lyrae's hands moved like lightning over the controls. She spun the ship to the right, diving toward a cluster of broken asteroid fragments. "Hold on," she called. Ferris grabbed the seat's edge as the stars twisted around them. A second blast streaked past, missing by meters. "They're too fast," Ferris said. "They're not faster than me," Lyrae replied. Her voice calm but firm. She flew low between two spinning rocks, the patrol ships chasing close behind. Ferris glanced at the weapons panel. "I can fire from here, right?" "Yes," she said. "Do it now." Ferris's fingers moved quickly. The ship's defense cannons activated, sending sharp bursts of energy at the nearest enemy. The first missed, but the second hit, sending the patrol spinning out of control. "That's one," he said. The second patrol kept firing, their blasts hammering against the shields. Lyrae's eyes stayed locked on her path, weaving between the asteroids with impossible precision. Ferris took aim again, and this time his shot struck the enemy's wing, tearing it away. The ship exploded in a flash of white light. The third patrol, realizing it was alone, broke off and fled. Lyrae slowed the ship, guiding it out of the asteroid field. For a few seconds, the only sound was the steady hum of the engine. "You're a fast learner," she said. "Or maybe you're just a good teacher," Ferris replied, smiling faintly. But Lyrae didn't smile back. Her eyes had turned distant. Again, they entered orbit over her homeworld, and the view filled the window. From above, Ferris could see the great ocean plains, the silver-white cities that shone like stars on the surface, and the distant shadows of battle in the skies above. Then a message came through, the voice speaking in Lyrae's language. Ferris couldn't understand the words, but the urgency was clear. "They're telling me to come at once to the command tower," Lyrae explained. "The council is holding the line, but they need my orders." Ferris nodded. "Then let's get you there." They descended through the atmosphere, the air burning briefly along the ship's wings before cooling again. The capital city came into view, towers of glass like stone, wide open courtyards, and a central palace built like a crown rising from the land. But the beauty was scarred. Smoke rose from the city's edges, and emergency lights glowed along the streets. When they landed in the royal docking bay, a group of Erangel soldiers hurried forward. Their armor shimmered faint blue, and each one bowed deeply to Lyrae before leading her toward the palace entrance. As Ferris followed, he heard one of them whisper, "Why is the human with her?" Another replied quietly, "Perhaps she trusts him." Inside, the council chamber was filled with movement. Tall, elegant figures argued over glowing maps of the battle lines. Lyrae stepped forward, her voice cutting through the noise. "Enough," she said. The room fell silent. She listened as her advisors explained the situation. The Varn fleet pressing hard at the planetary shields, small raids striking the cities, and the growing risk of the weapon Ferris had warned her about. Finally, one counselor said, "We must strike the Varn before their weapon is ready. We will need every ship, every soldier." Lyrae nodded slowly. "We will fight, but we must also protect those who cannot defend themselves." Her orders were clear and confident, and the council began to move at her command. When the meeting ended, Ferris waited near the back of the room. He could feel the energy of the coming battle all around him, the urgency, the unspoken fear. Lyrae walked toward him, her steps quiet but certain. "You have done much for me already," she said. "You repaired my ship. You helped me reach my people. But now," she paused, her gaze meeting his, "now it is time for you to stay behind." Ferris frowned. "Stay behind. I can help." She stepped closer. Her voice was soft but firm. "You cannot join this war. I want you to stay by my side." Ferris blinked. "That doesn't make sense. If I stay by your side, isn't that part of the war?" Her silver eyes softened, but her tone remained steady. "Not in the way I mean. I want you here, in the palace, safe. There are things I must do that will take me far from here. I cannot fight if I am thinking about losing you in the fire." He looked at her for a long moment. "Lyrae, I came this far. You can't expect me to just sit here while everyone else risks their life." "I do expect it," she replied, quietly, "because you matter more to me than this war, and I will not see another life taken because of me." Ferris felt a mix of frustration and something else, a warmth in his chest at her words. But that warmth did not erase the stubborn thought in his mind if he could help stop the weapon. He had to try still. He nodded slowly. "I'll stay." For now, she studied him, as if sensing the unspoken part of his answer. Then she turned and walked toward the command deck, her royal cloak flowing behind her. That night, the city glowed under the pale moonlight, but the skies above it flickered with distant flashes from the war beyond the shields. Ferris stood on the palace balcony, watching them. The sound of footsteps approached. One of Lyrae's guards bringing a message. The Varn weapon was nearly ready, and Ferris knew, deep inside, that for now would not last long. Somewhere out there, in the cold dark of space, a choice was waiting for him. The captured moon of Yather hung dark and cold in space. Its surface was rocky, scarred by past battles and heavy machinery. The Varn weapon was hidden deep beneath the ground, in a network of tunnels and chambers built to protect the terrible. Power inside, Ferris stood in the small shuttle, his heart beating fast. Around him were four others, soldiers and technicians chosen for the mission. Their faces were serious, but none spoke much. Each knew what was at stake. Lyrae's voice came over the comm link, calm but strong. "You must be careful. The Varn have many guards here, and their technology is deadly. Move fast. Find the weapon. Destroy it." Ferris nodded, even though she could not see him. He adjusted his pack, making sure the tools and explosives were ready. This was not a battle with ships or laser blasts. It was a mission of silence, speed, and sharp minds. The shuttle's engines hummed as they landed near an entrance carved into the moon's rock. The hatch opened, and the cold air of the tunnels greeted them. Inside, the narrow passage was lit by harsh white lights. Ferris led the team forward, moving quietly but with purpose. Every step echoed against the metal walls, but the sound did not carry far. They passed rows of sleeping Varn guards, tall, armored figures whose helmets glowed faint red. Ferris signaled to avoid them, creeping past without a sound. Further in, they came to a control room filled with screens and strange devices. The weapon's energy core was visible on a large monitor, a glowing sphere of blue light that pulsed steadily. "We need to plant the explosives here," whispered the technician. Ferris nodded and began placing charges carefully around the core. Suddenly, an alarm blared, loud and harsh, cutting through the silence. "Detected." A voice shouted in Varn language. Ferris froze. The guards were waking, and the chase had begun. They ran down the corridors, dodging gunfire and flashing lights. Ferris fired his pulse pistol, taking out a guard blocking their path. The others covered his back. Moving as one through the maze of tunnels dotted at a junction, Ferris saw a locked door. Their way forward blocked. He pulled out a small tool and worked on the lock, sweat dripping down his face. Come on," he muttered. The door clicked open just as guards closed in. They slipped through and ran faster. The explosives were set, but the timer was slow. They had minutes to escape. Ferris ordered the team to split. Two would lead guards away while the rest headed to the exit. He stayed with the team planting charges, checking the timer. A guard Caught up with them, raising a weapon, Ferris raised his pistol and fired. The guard fell, and the timer ticked down. Time to go, Ferris shouted. They sprinted through the tunnels, the sound of explosions growing behind them. The weapon's power core erupted in a bright flash, shaking the ground and sending a shockwave through the moon. Outside, the shuttle waited. Ferris jumped in first, followed by the others. The engines roared as they lifted off, dodging fire from Varn patrol ships. The moon exploded behind them, a bright fireball lighting the dark sky. The weapon was destroyed, but Ferris was not safe yet. The shuttle was hit, flames licking at the hull. The pilot struggled to keep control as the ship spun toward the surface of Yather. Ferris braced himself as the shuttle crashed into a rocky plain. The impact threw him forward, and everything went blacked out when Ferris opened his eyes. The air was cold and still. The shuttle was broken, but not destroyed. He saw a figure sitting nearby. She had found him. I thought I lost you, she said softly. Ferris managed a weak smile. You told me to stay by your side, she whispered. He nodded. We stopped the weapon, Ferris said. Your people can fight another day. Lyrae reached out and took his hand. There will be other wars, she said quietly. But as long as we face them together, I believe we can win. The damaged shuttle floated slowly through space. Ferris sat beside Lyrae, his body weak but his spirit strong. The stars outside the small windows sparkled like tiny fires in the dark. Lyrae's hand rested gently on his arm. We made it, she said softly. Ferris smiled faintly. Yes, but just barely. The shuttle was slow and barely holding together. They could not reach the main fleet quickly. Still, Lyrae used all her strength to call for help. Moments later, a large ship appeared, moving fast to meet them. It was one of her people's warships, armed but ready to save their queen and her companion. When they docked, Ferris was helped. Inside, the ship's medics worked quickly to heal his wounds. Lyrae stayed by his side, refusing to leave even for a moment. Days passed slowly. Ferris grew stronger, and the news came. The destruction of the Varn weapon had turned the battles. Tide, Lyrae's people pushed the enemy back, gaining ground with new hope. But the war was not over. The Varn still fought fiercely. Lyrae's duty as queen was heavy on her shoulders. One evening, in the quiet of the command room, Lyrae spoke to Ferris. You risked your life for my people, she said. Ferris looked into her silver eyes. I couldn't stand by and watch them lose everything. She smiled softly. Your courage is a gift, and your place is here, by my side. Ferris felt warmth in his chest. I want to stay, not just as a helper, but as someone who belongs. Lyrae reached out, taking his hand. Together, they looked out at the stars beyond. Whatever comes next, she said, we will face it together. Weeks later, the war finally slowed. The Varn retreated, their power broken. Peace was fragile but real. Ferris and Lyrae stood on the balcony of the palace, watching the sunrise over their world. The light touched the silver towers and the green fields below. We saved them, Ferris said quietly. Yes, Lyrae agreed, because no one stands alone. They turned to face each other. In that moment, they were no longer just queen and engineer. They were partners, two souls who had found strength in each other. The stars above promised many journeys still to come. But for now, hope was enough. The planet Nerith had no sound except the wind. It was not the soft wind of warm lands. It was sharp, heavy, and cold. It cut across the endless white ice and carried the smell of snow and stone. The sky was always pale gray, and the sun was only a faint silver disk, weak and far away. Here lived the Ishar, the albino alien dragons. They were tall as small houses, with wings like frozen sails. Their scales were white, shining faintly under the gray light. Their eyes were soft and pale, like the moon on a winter night. They moved slowly, not because they were weak, but because the cold made every step heavy. The Ishar had lived on Nerith for thousands of years. Long ago, their land was not so frozen. There had been green valleys, deep lakes, and glowing crystal towers that caught the sun's warmth. But all that was gone now. The crystal towers had broken long ago, and the planet had turned into one endless winter. The Ishar had no way to fix the towers, and so they had learned to live with the cold. They lived in wide caves under the ice. Cliffs, inside, the air was still cold, but at least the wind could not reach them. They hunted small ice creatures, ate the thin moss that grew near frozen springs, and waited for time to pass. Their stories told of a warmer age, but most had stopped believing such a time could return. The leader of the Ishar was an old dragon named Vera. Her wings were torn in places from years of flying through ice storms. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of many winters. She often told the younger Ishar, "We are the last guardians of our world. We do not fight the cold. We live with it. That is our way." But deep inside, Vera knew that their numbers were fewer each winter. Eggs rarely survived the freezing nights. Food became harder to find. She feared that one day there would be no more Ishar left to remember the warmth. One morning, a great storm swept across the land. The sky darkened until it was almost night. Snow fell so fast that the world turned into a white blur. The Ishar stayed inside their caves, curling close to one another for what little warmth they could share. But even through the roar of the wind, they heard something strange. It was not the voice of the storm. It was a deep, heavy thud, followed by a metallic groan. Then another sound, a loud tearing noise, like stone breaking. The younger Ishar grew restless. Vera narrowed her eyes and stepped to the cave's mouth through the storm. She saw a shape falling from the clouds. It was not alive. It was made of metal, glowing faintly from inside. The object spun in the air, leaving trails of smoke and fire before crashing into the ice far. From the caves, a loud echo rolled across the land. The Ishar gathered behind Vera. None had seen such a thing before. Some whispered that it might be a falling star. Others thought it was a piece of the old crystal towers breaking from the sky. But Vera could feel it. The thing was strange, unlike anything from Nerith. The storm raged for 2 more days. When it finally calmed, the air was still and heavy with cold. Vera called 3 of the strongest Ishar to follow her. They climbed over the frozen hills toward where the metal thing had fallen. When they arrived, they found a wide crater in the ice. Steam rose from the center, and the snow round it had melted into glassy pools. There, half buried in ice, was a broken ship. The ship's hull was dented and scorched. One side had been torn open, showing twisted wires and blackened panels. The Ishar had never seen such design, smooth shapes, strange markings, and lights that still blinked faintly even in the cold. Then they saw movement. Something small compared to them was climbing out of the wreckage. It stumbled in the snow, wearing thick layers of fabric and a helmet. The being moved slowly, breathing hard, but did not seem hurt. The Ishar watched in silence. Finally, Vera stepped forward, her claws sinking into the snow. The small being froze and looked up. Through the helmet's clear front, the human eyes stared back. The being raised its hand slowly, showing it carried no weapon. Vera could sense its thoughts, not clear words, but a sharp feeling of confusion, fear, and hope. It was not from Nerith. It was not an ISHA or Dot. It was something new. The human, for that was what it was, spoke through its helmet, though the Ishar could not understand the words. Still, the tone was not hostile. It was careful, almost respectful. Vera stepped closer, her breath steaming in the cold. The human pointed at the broken ship, then at itself, and then at the sky. It wanted them to know it had fallen from above. The younger Ishar shifted uneasily, unsure if this creature was a danger or a gift from the stars. But Vera felt a strange pull in her heart. Perhaps this was not an accident. Perhaps this meeting was the first change Nerith had seen in centuries. The human looked at the cold land around, then back at the dragons. Its eyes widened as if realizing how harsh this place was, and then, for the first time, it gave a small nod, almost like a silent promise. The frozen silence of Nerith had been broken. Something had arrived, and nothing would ever be quite the same again.